Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 10. Let's just catch up with where we are. So we've had the oncologist, or I've had the oncologist appointment. I know that chemo is looming, and in the last video I just talked about all the things that I thought about before going into chemo and my plan that I created, and we are going to be going into more detail on some of those topics over the coming weeks or videos at least. Today is all about having the PICC line fitted, which is how the chemotherapy drugs will be administered into your body. I chose a PICC line. I did only have two choices. One was to, on the day of the treatment, to have a catheter put into my hand, on the top of my hand here, like you would if you were going in to have a general anaesthetic in hospital if you've had an operation, and that would be put in there every time I had chemotherapy. The other option was a PICC line, which we're going to go into more details. There is another way of having your drugs administered or infused, and that would be a port, and that would be inserted into just below your neck on your right side of your chest, and it's just under the skin that they would use to administer the drugs in a different way. So you might get a number of different options. I didn't have the option of the port, but I did have the option of the PICC line. And so this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So what is a PICC line? A PICC line is a long, thin, hollow tube, which is a catheter, and it's put into your arm, just above your elbow, and threaded through one of your larger veins until it gets to a place which is just above your heart. The end of the line is sealed with something that looks a bit like this, with a cap or a bung, and this is where they will administer your drugs through. So you've got to undo that cap and attach it to the end of a drip or whatever it is they are using. The beauty of having a PICC line is that you don't have to have lots of needles every time that you go in to have a blood test or have a catheter fitted for your drugs. It means that it is easy access for everything that they need to allow you to have treatment. And I have found it so useful. It speeds up treatment. It takes the pain out of a blood test, because I know having a blood test isn't that bad, but when you're having them every single week, or maybe having two a week, it can be quite a painful experience. So it's really great that they can just use that little contraptions here, and they can put your drugs in, but they can also take blood out. And also, you know, if you are really poorly and have to go into hospital and have antibiotics, they can put the antibiotics through your PICC line. So it is a very useful thing to have. So the actual procedure, you would be invited to go into outpatient's department, or in my case, it was in the same place that I would go to have my chemotherapy treatment. I went in there. I was told that it would take at the most an hour. And I went in, I was lying down, and I had completely covered, I think I'd got a gown on the top half of my body, and then I was really kind of, if you like, screened off, and my arm was on the other side of the screen, so to completely protect it, the incision against any germs. They then made the area numb, so a local anaesthetic went in and some numbing cream went onto the top, and then they made a small incision and put a needle into my arm, and then threaded this very thin blue flexible tube through that needle, as if you were threading a needle to sew, and that went through my arm. They monitored this with a screen so they could see where it got to, and found the correct position for me. And then once they had done that, they then cut the thread and fitted the bits and pieces to the end of the the contraption, whatever it is. I'm going to show you what that looks like now so you can have a little look. But overall, the experience was not painful. I didn't feel anything when it was happening. It was all very interesting actually to watch, and to watch the screen as they're plotting where to leave it. And I think I was in there probably as about 30 minutes it took for it to happen. So altogether not too difficult an experience. Let me just show you what it looks like. So this is the actual pick line. Sorry if you're a little bit squeamish, but this is the actual where it goes into my arm. And then you have got a thread that comes out, as you can see the blue thread that went in to the vein. And then you have got that at and this is what it looks like. This is basically what you have to kind of carry around with you, which when I first saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, it's such a lot of stuff on my arm. But you do get used to it. You'll see that there is a waterproof sticker over, or plaster over that really does need to be kept completely clean. And you go in really, at the moment I'm going in weekly for what we call pick care, which is to flush the line through to make sure that it isn't infected with anything. And I think that happens basically every week before chemo begins. A little bandage like this that you cover it up with, so it's all very neat and tidy, and that does help, like putting on your jumpers and things in the morning. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but it really is not a problem at all. Just, I suppose, a couple of tips really. So you can, when you go in the shower, it's really important that you don't get it wet, or in the bath. A lot of I've had a couple of good friends and family have given me different sleeves to try. But what I have found is the most useful one for me is from Boots, and it's one, basically it looks like this. It's got a tie sleeve at the top so that you put that on your arm. If I could do it really, couldn't I? Show you what it looks like. So you put it on like that, and tie that at the top, and then you put it one on down the bottom. I usually use my teeth. And that then covers it up when you're in the shower. Not so easy when you're in the bath, and I have tried it and actually got so involved in a book that I was reading that I completely let all the water in. So when you're in the bath, it kind of doesn't really work. You've got to have your arm hanging out. So I don't have very many baths at the moment. But in the shower, it's dead easy, and it doesn't let any water in. And that was a £5.50, found in the sort of plasters and bandages area of Boots. So really, really useful. Makes a lot of sense to have one of those. And I suppose a few other things to note about it. Of course, it's not a good idea to go swimming while you've got one of those in, just because of the chance of it getting infected. With everything else, I have not had to stop doing anything. Exercise, yoga, nothing really that has affected me. I do believe that if you're a keen golfer and you are doing that all the time with a golf club, I think that might be a bit of a problem, or possibly anything like tennis where you're moving it and really whacking it hard. But they were the only kind of couple of things that to watch out for. Generally, you know, it hasn't stopped me doing anything at all. The big thing is to just watch out for infection, be covered with a dressing. And any sign of any issues, you get in touch with your chemo nurse. That's it for today. Thanks everybody for watching.